Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Hotel News Now podcast. I'm Sean McCracken, news editor, here with Hilton's Jess Petitt, Chief Trends Officer. And Jess, you're here, obviously, to talk about those trends. So what are the big trends going into 2025? What I know you guys did a big study, and you're going to release it. What are the big takeaways?
Look, there's so much to potentially cover, and it's one of the things I love about our industry and what I do. Part of it is the continuation of trends, right? The things that we've been tracking over time, things that COVID shifted and changed in all of our mindsets in travel. And then those little things that are tweaking each year, things that technology gets us into. So I think the thing I would lead off with. So when we think about these trends, right? We talk to 13,000 travelers. We talk to our team members, and we try to cover a ton of countries. So we think we cover a pretty wide swath, and it's the year of the travel maximizer, right? It's the idea that it is okay to continue to spend the so crucially important disposable income that our guests have and that people in the economy have, and spend it on travel. And so that's sort of the broad theme that I think is out there. But underneath that, and happy to dive any direction you'd like, underneath that there are trends in adventure. There's trends in the importance of sleep and wellness. There's the importance of nostalgia and how all of us have that inherent need to sort of reach back into our past. And so many other things underlie it, and happy to take it in any direction you'd like to start with.
So, well, let's talk about that overarching theme. Obviously, travel maximizer can mean a number of different things. Is that indicative that people, like you said, are willing to spend still, or is it a matter of, is this kind of like a bleisure thing where you're making the most of your trip? Like what exactly does that mean?
I think it's yes and.
Okay.
And so I think first off, it is, we have found disproportionately that people want to spend their money on experiences. And so if you track the trend pre-COVID, there's this concept of excess savings, right? That with the amount of stimulus money that was into the economy, 2.6 trillion in excess savings at peak was in people's pockets. And so that's what caused revenge travel first, right? That was 2021 and 2022. It's what caused the summer of Tay-Tay and
Is that
Barbenheimer.
what we're calling it now?
Yeah, 2023, the summer of Tay-Tay and Barbenheimer, right? That people were spending money because they had it.
Yeah.
And it's continued often to see. Look, we're still at levels of leisure demand that we never had pre-COVID. It's waning a little bit, but it's so that prioritization of travel is clear, and it's still, people see the importance for their own mental health and all the other benefits of travel. The other part of the equation, though, is I prefer to focus on workations, right? So bleisure is, you've got a business trip and you stay over on a Sunday night and you do a little bit of a leisure trip. A workation is, you can work from anywhere, right? You're hybrid. For me, I'll in a perfect world, I just had a baby this past year, but in a perfect world, I'd spend a month, typically August, outside of DC area because it's miserable, and I can work from there and I can experience being there. That's a workation, right? And so for me, there's also an element of maximizing within that, right? That I'm going to go someplace where first, maybe I can get a little work done. I can meet some of my team members. They're all over the country. I can do that. Well, I can also, be someplace, I can take my family someplace that I want to be. We did it in London last year. We spent 2 weeks of vacation, 2 weeks of work. And that's just a great way to, get some mental health time, spend the money as wisely as possible and maximize travel in our lives.
So what does a company like Hilton do to make the most? How do you maximizing travel is basically the question.
Yeah, I mean, look, what I think it's important for all of us to recognize is, I grew up in the hotel industry. I care deeply about hotels. I love visiting hotels. I love visiting hotels more than I love to travel, to be honest, to see the people that work in hotels and everything else. But we're also customers. And it's really important that in our industry, and I know there's a lot of folks listening to this that are they're probably all in our industry, that we are passionate about our product, and that we are consumers of our product, and are, think about our product as a customer, and are incisive in how we support our team members and property, and incisive in how we think about the quality of the product that we put out there, because our guests are out there, they are pressure testing it every single day in amazing ways. And so I think that's really important. The second thing is, the benefits programs that exist at Hilton, right? I love, the opportunity to pursue my passion working at a company like Hilton, the number one place to work in the world. All those things is really, really cool. And it comes with some great benefits, right? Our team member travel programs are a great way to really pursue that passion of travel, and make sure we actually get out there and visit our hotels. So, when I'm out there doing a business trip and I want to extend things with my family, I have the benefit of being able to pay a team member rate when it's available, which is huge. Everybody's always trying to maximize their dollars that way. And also just get as much exposure to all of the brands that we have in our portfolio.
Yeah. So drilling into some of the trends you guys highlight here, I do find that there's some interesting dichotomy between a few of them.
Yeah, sure.
When we go through the list, you mentioned it says 7 out of 10 global travelers enjoying being active, and at the same time, a quarter want to focus on their sleep. So how do you balance those? How do you get both of those experiences to guests?
Yeah, I mean, look. I don't know about you, but if I've had an adventurous day, I can't imagine anything more important than having a really good sleep at night. And I think that dichotomy is really important, right? That you need there's a side of wellness, which is, how we exert our energy, and there's the side of wellness that's how we restore it. And I think that's a really important part of it. But look, for us, it's about being where the adventure happens, right? So Hilton is for the stay, right? Yeah. So we're not saying that you're going to go to our hotel necessarily, and that's where you're going to go off and do your adventure. Yeah, we're facilitating that with the stay experience, and so. What I love is, our recent partnership with a company like AutoCamp, right? It puts you right in there in the experience, the adventure near National Park, places like Joshua Tree and Cape Cod and other spots around the country. It's a really great way to be right in the destination where that adventure happens, but also have a super comfortable place to sleep. But then there's other examples, right? And so, I've taken my family up to the Hampton Inn in Bar Harbor, right? And where you can stay right outside of Acadia National Park, and you've got a really comfortable place to stay. One of the most fantastic national parks I've ever been to. My personal favorite hotel in our entire portfolio is the Canopy in Reykjavik in Iceland. You have access to everything in Iceland, and it's so relatively close, a small island, and so there's so many ways that we can get that experience element and have that adventure, but get the stay that you expect.
Yeah, that's absolutely it, right? Yeah. You want to have that kind of unique experience. You want to feel exhausted at the end of the day, and then recharge at the beginning of the morning. And
know that you're staying at a place that you can rely on, an experience that you can rely on. I mean, that is the benefit of the brands in our industry, and what they've been able to create is create a guest expectation. And I mean, there's no better example of that than Hampton Inn, which is essentially redefined the industry expectations. Thousands of locations across the globe, what you're going to get.
Well, I will say to that end, my specific experience, I'm a big Bills fan.
Okay, yeah.
And I remember a couple of years ago, me and one of my coworkers, who's also a Bills fan, we went up. We're based in Cleveland, but we went up to Buffalo for a playoff game, and spent all day tailgating, and it was probably 6 degrees Fahrenheit all day. And I remember we stayed at the.
Were you wearing a shirt?
Oh, yeah. Well, I was wearing like 12 layers.
Okay, well, you're not that big of a Bills fan then. Jeez.
I wasn't that guy. You know what the trick with that is? That a lot of those people who take off their shirts, they have club seats. There's heating lamps over them, so they're cheating. Yeah. But anyway, by the end of that day, we were staying at the Hampton Inn in Hamburg, New York, and I've never been happier to be in a bed than I was that night in Hamburg, New York. Yeah. So shout out to the Hampton Inn Hamburg.
I appreciate that. And think about how important that shower was, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, look, people have, and I think we, as an industry, we've sort of had these different iterations. They thought about wellness as spa experiences, right? They thought about wellness as this sort of thing that you pay more for. It was an additive part of the experience, right? But what we've learned, and I think the pandemic has really helped us learn this, right, is the importance of the basics of wellness.
Yeah.
A great night's sleep, right, and a great shower, right. So what we've heard from our customers, right, is 2/3 of our customers say they sleep. 2/3 of Americans are saying that they sleep better in hotels than they do at home, right. Now, I have a different point of view on that now that I've got a 12-week at home. And I'm sleeping a little better in hotels these days because I'm not getting woken up a few times at night.
That's a different circumstance.
It's a different circumstance, but it's a circumstance repeated all over the country in many different ways. And I think that's a really, really valuable thing to remember, right? Is that people do look at hotels as this oasis wherever they're going, whether it's a Hampton Inn or a Waldorf, a Spark, your Canopy, right? It's this oasis where they can have a wellness experience. They can have a great night's sleep with great sheets, great towels, great shower, and quiet, peace.
So jumping to one of the other trends on here that I thought was interesting, you guys highlighted time travel, which is the idea of families taking their children to places where they went when they were children.
Yeah.
Now, is this like taking your kids to Disneyland phenomenon, or is it broader than that?
I think it's broader than that. And so the stat we have is that 58% of customers are saying that they travel with their kids to revisit destinations of essentially their youth, right?
Yeah.
And they're embracing nostalgia in some way. And look, we all know that Disney fanatic in our life, and they've been there dozens of times over their life, and bless them. That's amazing. And that they have that, they can go back to that same place and have that experience. I'm actually flying to Orlando, not for Disney, right after this. Unfortunately, not bringing my family. But I think it manifests itself in a few other ways. I think first off, it's about just going to that place that was special to your family, right? Maybe it was you went to the Outer Banks, or maybe it was just like you did a family trip to New York City or something else like that. But you have that experience with your parents or a family member, or your grandparents, anything else like that. I know for me personally, and it's a funny thing, right? This is probably too often repeated. It reminds me of sort of a National Lampoon's Vacation phenomenon.
Yeah.
Road trips that I took with my family. I grew up in the hotel business.
Yeah.
I grew up staying at hotels, roadside hotels all over the country. And I'm sure, although I don't remember it very well, that I was probably a real pain in that process, as most kids are. And, they are we there yet sort of phenomenon. But now, all I can think about, and I have a 2-year-old and a newborn, is how much I'm looking forward to just like the road trips, and how peaceful it is for me to, and I've done quite a few of them already with my 2-year-old, just being out on the road. And so I've already scheduled ahead to next April. We're taking my family to the mountains of Georgia, to the Macklemore Resort. It's a curio collection hotel, and I've just put this line in the sand saying we're going on a road trip, and that is my form of nostalgia. We didn't. I took one trip actually to the '96 Olympics with my family. Then we drove through. We stopped in all these destinations, South Carolina, all over the place, and I'm just really looking forward to those stops along the way. That journey is really cool. The other way we're seeing it come across is through sports travel, right? And I think as what we've seen with the generations that are really more into sports, there's a lot more sports travel coming up.
Yeah.
Well, that generation's also starting to have kids, right? So I was right at the beginning of that. I did a lot of travel baseball growing up, and getting the opportunity to get out in there and do that and have my parents join me. We're seeing that replicate itself. We've seen huge growth in youth and sports, sports travel business over the last 5 years.
Yeah, and that's pretty broad based. I mean, you bring up baseball, but there's travel basketball, there's travel
hockey,
everything,
and everything. Right, has become a really big focus for the generations that are particularly Generation Alpha right now. Yeah.
So, as you mentioned, a lot of our listeners are in this industry, and I'm sure they're listening to a lot of this. They find it interesting, but they also want to know. But they also want to know, how is this going to turn into profits? How's this going to turn into something that supports my business?
Yeah.
So where do we make that jump? Like where do these hospitality trends turn into business drivers? Yeah.
So when I think about the evolution of our industry, and Smith Travel sort of started the documented portion of our industry in 1987, they started capturing data. And then you fast forward to 2009 and to 2019, the longest consecutive period of growth that our industry had, like the longest period of economic favorability, a 10-year period post the Great Recession up until the pandemic, right? It was a long tail of demand that got us to maximum occupancy that we experienced at that point, right? It took time, right? Different segments of customers, different travel reasons, all of that sort of stuff. And it all built up into this long tail that led us to maximum occupancy that we have not yet reached again, right? And I think it's important to remember as we're on our own recovery curve right now and post-pandemic world, that it's going to take a long tail of all of these things being additive that are going to help us get there, right? And so that Hampton and Hamburg, right? It may not be the same segmentation of customers that's going to what they had in 2019.
Yeah.
They're maybe getting a little more leisure, right? They may be getting a little more folks that are coming up to Bills games because they've moved or anything else like that. But their demand is returning, and it's important that we're on top of these trends. To make sure we're optimizing it for our own hotels, and we're seeing why customers are traveling. A lot of these trends may seem like they're more leisure centric, but the reality is that's so blurred now, right? And it will continue to be blurred into the future. And so I think that's a big thing I just keep in mind, that it's a long tail of things, and it's not going to be the same things that get us to maximum occupancy again.
Yeah, and speak of the long tail, like you mentioned in the trends here that we're talking about Gen Alpha, and how many travelers pick destinations based on their kids now.
Right.
So that's a long tail to grooming this kind of next generation of travelers.
That's right. Yeah, 70% of our respondents said they picked their vacation destination based off what their kids' needs and interests were. Right, and it shows the priority system, and I guess I'm experiencing this for the first time over the last couple of years. The priority system we all have in thinking about our kids first as we select travel. And it's the same thing they're seeing in food and beverage, right? Almost 2/3 of customers are saying they let their kids pick where they're going to eat when they're traveling, which is a really funny thing. I'm certainly not there yet.
Oh, once you get there, your food destinations change greatly just based on what will work, as opposed to being maybe a little less adventurous than you would otherwise. But I guess there's room for both of those things, right? As when you're a solo traveler, which you guys talk about in the trends too, you can do whatever you want, right?
Right. No, and I think about, and again, I'm heading down to the Conrad Orlando. I've had an opportunity to stay down. It's a new hotel. Stayed down a couple of times there this year. A Conrad, so a luxury hotel, but in a leisure destination, really focused on kids.
Yeah.
And what you see is the importance of how you get that cross section, right? That it meets the needs of both customer bases, and really food and beverage is a key part of that, right? You've got to have a menu that is enticing and great for parents that are out on vacation. They want to have a great experience, but also has some great, really simple kids menu items that are out there. My kid's an oddity. He's 2 years old, and his favorite food is sushi. And
that's
so
pretty great.
I feel like we've done a lot of prodding to make sure he likes the food we eat, but that's not the case in most, and I'm sure it won't be in 2 years.
Well, that's the thing. It's I will say, as the father of a 7-year-old, it's a kind of it's not linear progression with that, right? Like I feel like there's times as a parent where I feel like, oh man, I did such a great job opening his horizons to different things and exposing him to all these different cuisines, so that he's not the just eats chicken nuggets kid. But then there's days where he'll refuse to eat anything other than macaroni and cheese. Right. So it goes
completely
both ways.
Unpredictable. As somebody who loves to make most of the meals we have at home, it is amazing how much my self-esteem is impacted by the immediate reactions that my son gives when he's eating, and soon to be my daughter as well would be doing the same. Something I'm going to have to keep working on.
So it seems like a lot of these trends seem to tie back to mental health and well-being in a lot of ways. So what can we take away in that regard? What can hoteliers do to react to that? And what should the focus really be there? Yeah.
I mean, look, I think we should all take a step back and realize that's the reality in our lives now. We are more self-aware of our mental wellness needs beyond just our physical wellness needs. And so as hoteliers, I think it's really important that we're conscious of the role we play in society in doing that, right? And I love our mission as a company, right? Bring the light and warmth of hospitality, right? Like that is such an amazing thing to bring to somebody's life. And I, regardless of the chain that you're part of or an independent hotel, there's some similar element that you're bringing to life through your mission. And so remembering that that's the role we play. And I think too often we start to think about then, okay, what is the role of technology versus personalized service? And that is a really interesting dichotomy that our customers frankly don't care about. What they care about is how we remove friction from their experience, right? And so the way we're thinking about it is you remove friction from the experience by meeting customers where they are, right? If they want to go straight to their room with their key, right? And, check in on their phone, bring up their key on their phone and go straight to their room, great. Fantastic. That's what they want. They want to message us from their phone instead of running down to the front desk or picking up the phone. Great. That's remove the friction from their lives. I can tell you for me as a customer, as somebody who, may have been a bit passive aggressive in how I think about those things in the past, right? The fact that I can say, hey, can I just get a couple new towels? I'm running down to the gym. Can you drop them off in my room and do that via text as opposed to dropping off at the front desk? Like that to me is so empowering as a customer.
Yeah.
But what it also does for us as hoteliers is by meeting customers where they are and removing their friction, we're also allowed to repurpose our time towards the things that matter most to those customers,
absolutely.
right? We can spend more time with the customers who want it and need it. And by the way, that could be the same person for two different travel needs, right?
Absolutely.
Like you're traveling on leisure versus business. Business, you're just, shut down and going straight to your room. On leisure, you want to talk to the front desk agent or the bartender or do whatever you want.
Or it might just depend on how social you're feeling that day.
Right. or a given day, right? Like exactly. And so what we're seeing is, customers want to book their travel online, which should be given an obvious, relatively speaking, at this stage, right? But they want to remove that friction from their experience all the way through their travel, right? Through the entire journey. And I think the more we can do as hoteliers to embrace technology to remove that friction, embrace technology to make it easier for our team members on property to do what they do so well. Right. And realize that those two things can really intermix so positively.
One other trend I want to make sure we don't skip over is there's a couple mentions here of solo travelers, which you guys have a different term for. Yeah,
Mamooners.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've had to say it out loud as much as in writing, but Mamooners. Right. So, first off, it's recognizing that there is a increasing cohort of customers that just want to go out on their own. Right? They want to get out and travel on their own. They want to have an experience on their own. And what they're saying is that we need to have an experience that meets them where they are. Right.
Yeah.
So really simple example, right, is design. It's around, how we have bar stools that allow customers to sit individually, and they may want to be part of a crowd or anything else. You can move it around, but allows them. So we're seeing 40% of our solo travelers, roughly 40%, say they want a flexible seating option that allows them to either have a shared experience with others, or it could just be do something on their own. And I do think it's really important. As an industry that we embrace, again, it's the long tail of customers, but we embrace this customer base, and they're the ones that are staying in brands like Motto, and may have stayed at a hostel in the past, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of folks have had that experience, typically in their 20s, traveling alone or with a group, and they wanted a hostel type experience. There's an opportunity as an industry for us to create that branded experience, give them something they expect in a destination they want, but also help them adopt, major travel programs and become, Hilton customers for life.
And interestingly enough, you guys tie that to a higher level of traveling with pets too, which is I think an interesting phenomenon.
Yeah, it is. I mean, look, the simple phenomenon we saw during the pandemic was the increase of pet adoption, and the importance that pets played in people's lives. And so we did a partnership with Mars Petco, and we've made more of our hotels here in the U.S. Pet friendly, and made it easier for it to be pet friendly, right? I mean, I've had a dog. He's 15 years old. Honestly, even being in the hotel business, it wasn't always clear to me how I could bring my dog on trips and what hotels, so eating simple things like in our buying journey, filtering towards pet-friendly hotels and then getting more information about how they think about their fees or anything else like that reduces friction in that experience and reduces the anxiety. Arguably the same thing around electric vehicles as well. I'm doing more road trips, but I also have an electric vehicle now. So I'm selecting hotels based off of whether they have a charger.
Yeah.
And having those sort of really self-service, frictionless options to help book that is really important.
It's funny you bring that up specifically because I also have an electric car. And when I drive home to visit my family for holidays or whatever, there's basically one hotel in the small town that I grew up in that I know, like, I can stay there because I know they have the charger. That's the sole reason that hotel consistently wins my business at this point, is because I know I can charge my car there.
Yeah. Well, you haven't said the brand, so I assume there's a reason for that. We'll move on from that. But that's right. And it's important for us to remember as hotel. I mean, the growing proliferation of electric vehicles is driving some of those decisions and how we we meet them where they are.
Well, like you were saying, it's removing friction, right? It's one less thing for me to worry about while I'm on the road. So.
Yeah, exactly.
So obviously a lot of interesting takeaways here, and there's no way we can get to all of it. So we'll make sure to publish more of the trends along with this. But any final takeaways that you want to share with our listeners?
Look, I think it's just a reminder of the importance that travel plays in people's lives and the importance of our role in society. And I think, yes, our trends, I think, are really interesting in that they highlight some of the microcosms of what customers are feeling. But I hope what they also, as hoteliers remind us is that we are the providers of all of these things, right? We are the providers of great travel experiences. We're the providers of wellness. We're the providers of nostalgia and so many other elements that we're going to introduce to new generations through Gen Alpha as they start to travel. And it's something as an industry, whether you've been in the industry your whole life or a more recent entrance as you're listening to this, it's something to be really proud of. And I hope that's a takeaway. But it's also, as you mentioned, right? You're thinking about how you're going to be winning business over the next few years. Pay attention to this stuff. Pay attention to what customers think about your hotel. Think about your hotel as a customer would, and that's going to help drive that performance into the future.
All right. Well, thanks so much. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Hi, I'm Isaac Colazo, Vice President of Analytics at STR.
Hi, and I'm Jan Freitag, National Director for Hospitality Analytics for the CoStar Group. Tune in to our new show, Tell Me More, a hospitality data podcast.
It's a podcast on the global hotel industry, its current trends, what we're thinking about, and where the industry's going.
And we like to have fun with the data too. Find us on hotelnewsnow.com or wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe today.
This episode of the Hotel News Now podcast was recorded at Hilton headquarters in McLean, Virginia on September 16th, 2024, and edited by me, Sean McCracken. Go to hotelnewsnow.com for the latest industry news every day.